Welcome to another Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast. And if you heard the show earlier today, you know that Sam's son Jackson has his permit and he's driving, and you've got him in a vehicle, and he had his first incident, right?
Yeah, backing out of my driveway right into the mailbox of the gentleman across the street from me.
Yeah.
But thankfully, you have a really nice neighbor who understands.
Yeah.
And you know what made me think about his kindness made me think about my incidents, and I'm sure each of us have a moment or two,
I have
right?
several embarrassing early new driver moments.
Yeah. So what was one of yours, Jodi?
On the day, my mom loves to tell this story. On the day I was supposed to get my driver's license, we had gone back and forth because my dad was going to take me and pick me up from school one day, but pick me up in a truck I had never driven before with a stick shift. Mm-hmm. I had learned on a stick shift in a car, but he picked me up in his truck, and he said, it's the same thing. I'm like, I can't drive this. And I was so freaked out. He said, all right, go back to school. We're not doing it. So my mom had to come, like the next opportunity was my mom could bring me. Mm-hmm. And so I was at home in the afternoon, and we were leaving in the car that I had learned in, and I was going to drive to the appointment, which I don't understand that. Maybe I had my permit, and she was with me, and I was trying to get my license, and I backed out of the driveway into the ditch. We had a very steep little ditch there, and so I turned too hard. It's that thing of being with mom in the car makes you triple nervous. And she just loves to tell that story to this day.
So were you able to drive out of the ditch, or did you have to get somebody to pull you out?
I don't even recall.
Blocked it from your memory, have you?
Probably had to get some help. It was that steep.
I had a couple of dumb things like that. The first one was embarrassing. As soon as Sam told us the Jackson story about him backing up, I had one of those moments where I had just finished at work, and I got into my car, and I just was having a great day. I don't know why I was so excited and listening to the music.
So you peeled out.
Crank out. Well, almost. Yeah. But I threw my car in reverse and smashed straight into the car behind me so hard that I actually pushed it about 20 feet.
Ooh, I did that in a student parking lot.
It was a classic car too. It was an antique car, and an MG, of course. So it couldn't be just another car from the 80s at that time. It had to be that.
Yeah.
And the whole insurance. It was really, you would have thought I would have learned my lesson from that. Now, I did learn my reverse lesson from that. Ever since that day, I never would just throw a car in reverse. That's why you have to watch out to make sure you don't get caught up in any moment. Yeah. Forwards, backwards, or any time behind the wheel.
And there's a difference in what you think is actually going on around you and what actually is.
And I think this accident or this little incident for Jackson probably cleared up for him, or at least made it more clear for him that you don't just whip it in reverse and go,
right?
Because you don't know what's out there,
right? Even and honestly, I feel like it's more true in your most common areas. You know, how many of us have accidentally bumped into a car in our own driveway or whatever, or you're on 5 blocks from your own home. Like the closer you are to your comfort area, the less on guard you are, and that's a mistake. It's a mistake in a car.
I think that's why they're now requiring backup cameras from manufacturers to be part of cars, because that's probably everybody's Achilles heel. You know what I mean? That's the one. If you're going to screw something up, that's where it's going to be. When we bought Taylor's car, which is used, by the way, it was a 12-year-old vehicle, but somebody had put an aftermarket backup camera on that.
Oh, that's good.
And so I didn't want her to be spoiled on that. I wanted to turn around, look and use the mirrors, but I'm glad that she has that, because she's said that that's helped her in a few cases.
Yeah.
That didn't help her going forwards in one or two, but...
Well, that's what's funny about Jackson is because whenever he's gotten in my car or any car I've seen him get in, the first thing he does is reach for the mirrors.
That's great.
The both sides. And
so he can see?
Like,
good.
Yeah, so it's
right.
like, good. Yeah. At least he does that, but...
I told you that was a trick.
He just adjusted them. He didn't use them.
Our driver's ed teacher would play is the mirrors were all messed up. When it was your turn to get in the car, he would mess up the mirror big time.
Oh, yeah. The one at our school, he would like turn the windshield wipers on, crank the radio up full blast, do all those things. So when you got in, even though he's explained where everything is, he just wanted to see what you did.
For someone else to teach a child to drive is one of the best education decisions ever in the world, because it is way too personal. The reason that mom and dad are so jacked up and so overly, like, you cannot take them and the way that they behave with you as a kid trying to learn how to drive is because they are terrified of you driving, because it is so serious and it's so personal. And the kid is so worried that you mom and dad, we make the kids more nervous. They want to know how to drive for us, but there's no knowing how to do that until you do it.
And I don't know if every parent's that, this way or not, but I know that Jodi is for sure. I am, but I just try to wrap my head around it. The parents are just as nervous for the same reasons what you're talking about. Your child doesn't want to disappoint you. They want to do it right, and then you're in there worried about for the first time, are they going to hurt themselves or what's going to happen? Especially when you pull it, when you go beyond the parking lot drive and you're just onto the road.
Oh my God,
that was a big transition for me. Getting comfortable with that was
that
difficult.
is one of the hardest parts of parenting. Period, in my opinion. And Taylor's 18 now and has been driving for quite a while. She still doesn't love it if I'm in the car, and I still don't love it either. For both of us, I don't love it.
I don't want to be in the car with him, just because I want him to be safe, and then therefore I do want to be in the car. But I just can't. Sammy and Will were much different drivers. My oldest, Jackson,
people.
Jackson just scares me to death. Makes me so nervous.
Different people.
So did you ever have any moments like that, Sam? Did you ever back into something? Or everybody's got at least one accident.
Yeah, I've backed into a car when I was in college. I actually ran forward into my garage door at my house now.
Yeah.
But that was because
wait, your house now?
Yeah. I didn't raise the garage door one day, and so I pull up in there and I jump out of the car. And I guess it's because my whole rhythm was off, but I didn't put it in park.
Ooh.
So it's like, I'm home. Let me go. And I jump out the car, and then the car lurches forward, hits the garage door, and it's like, oops.
Too bad you didn't have that on camera.
Yeah. Or everything I said. Now, look. Okay, the reason we started talking about this is because Jackson's accident. I do have to say, in Jackson's defense, kind of what you were saying there, they want to prove to you that they know what they're doing.
They do.
After everything happened, he was the one, because it's like, get out of the way. I'm getting this car out of the grass. But you've done enough. Move. But he wanted to get in the car, and he wanted to put it in neutral when we got pulled out, and he wanted to. And it's like, part of me wants to let him experience that.
Sure.
But it's like, you've done enough here, and I don't know what where you are right now as far as being shaken up. So just let me get this.
Right.
Let me do this. Let me do that, and we'll get it out. And he knows me. We were walking to the house when it was all said and done. Are you mad? I mean, are you really mad at me? Are you going to yell at me?
What did you say?
And I was like, yeah, I'm very mad. I said, but I'm also upset that you did that on your first try. But I said it. I didn't like.
Yeah.
Good.
I did lose a little when I first walked out and saw it over there. Because it's like, you start going, okay, what could this be? Mm-hmm. And then when you get there, it's like, okay, he ran in the yard, he knocked over a mailbox.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of kids have knocked over mailboxes. A lot of adults have knocked over mailboxes.
Yeah. And as long as he's not hurt, that's the big thing. I've had a couple of those close call moments in traffic, and Taylor was one of those when, she's 18 now, but she wanted to please me and Jodi absolutely when we were riding with her. So having driver's ed was helpful, but that one time that she made a U-turn, and that was my fault actually as a parent. Now that I look back and realize that she was learning in an SUV, and that probably was a little bit more power in a bigger vehicle than she needed to be in to at least learn. Because as I'm explaining to Phoebe, our youngest, who's going to be doing her permit this year, it's two things that you're trying to do at one time, and this is why it's so challenging. First, you don't know how to actually operate the vehicle itself, and that's what you've got to become comfortable with, and that has to become second nature. But you're learning that simultaneously with what's going on outside and around you. That's very overwhelming, right? Yeah. Which is the reason it does take practice. I mean, that part, getting comfortable with the car, is the part that you have to be really super comfortable with first. And once we got Taylor into a car that she was more comfortable with, it got a lot better. Yeah. It just improved.
And I love this that my Uncle Terry taught us from the beginning, before Taylor was even driving. He's a retired police officer, and he taught drivers, not just drivers, but police driving, defensive driving. Mm-hmm. He's got all kinds of driving tricks. In fact, and that's the thing he told me, he would help Phoebe too if we can. He's very busy right now, but he told me years ago, before Taylor was even driving, he says, you start teaching them to drive before they ever sit at the driver's seat. You start making sure they know where they are, or let them start asking you questions when they're in the passenger seat. Make them put their phones down and tell you where they are. How do they think they should get home from here? Or, when you're in this lane and you've got this blinker on, get them to tell you why you can't go yet. Mm-hmm. Start letting them learn the rules of the road. They'll pick up more than you think as long as you engage them in it. And he's right about that. So we actually need to start doing that with Phoebe. Phoebe rides with Taylor an awful lot. That's the driving education she's getting now, which is
true.
Hopefully good. I'm sure it's fine, but we haven't,
I'm trying to think of
done that a lot for her.
The ones that we have done for her, which I did for Taylor also, is when you approach an intersection, just because the light turns green immediately, don't just sail right through it, because when the light first changes, there's always somebody coming from the other side that's going to run that red light.
And I think that's the hardest stuff to teach a new driver is that is the defensive driving, but just because it's a rule or a law doesn't mean somebody else. You might be going to follow it. You're going to obey it, but you got to worry about everybody else out on the street.
Yeah, yeah. My dad was telling me that early on. He was like, "You got to drive defensively." You know what that means? And I did, because I'd played sports. I know what defense means, kind of a thing. And that's what I equated it to.
Yeah.
He didn't say drive offensively.